Okay. All right. The time is 6:32. We are live on YouTube now, so I'm going to call the meeting of the Newcastle Planning Board to order. Today is April 15th. Good evening, Lee.
Hello.
So first thing on the agenda are the minutes, and I didn't pull them up, but I did read them. Do we have a motion on the minutes from our previous meeting that Shelley sent us? Peter McNaughton moves the minutes. Nick seconds the minutes. Were there anything anyone saw in the minutes that needed correction or words they got wrong? There was only one. I'm going to tell Shelley. She meant to write something and she wrote powers or something. I got to find it, and I'm not going to pull it up right now because I've got everything else set up. So I'll get back to her. It was just a little typo, but everything else looked really good. So if there's nothing else about the minutes from our last meeting, all in favor of passing the minutes? All right, that passes 4-0. So 1, 2, 3. There's 4 of us here. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so first item on the agenda is Matthew Morgan-Besser. Morgan-Besser, did I say that correctly?
Yep, that's me.
Great. I have an application for farming and other ag. You want to construct, I'm just reading the description here on the agenda, construct some hoop houses, a chicken coop, and an Amish shed. You are located on 129 Forest Road, which is map 8, lot 39B. For any planning board members or others who are following along and want to go to the town website, you can look up that on the assessor's map and dial in, and you can get all kinds of information if you're interested. And we also have with us Matthew Dubois, Matthew Morgan-Besser and Matthew Dubois. You're both here about the same application?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so why don't you guys go ahead, now that I've sort of laid the groundwork, can you go ahead and tell us what it is you're doing up there, what it is you want to do, what's this project involve, and just sort of lay it out for us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is Matt Dubois. I'm an attorney who's been working with Matt Morgan-Besser for around a year now, working just general licensing and compliance work to help Matt stay abreast of the law and stay compliant with it as he does his medical cannabis caregiver work. And yeah, so he brought me in to help answer questions and handle the approvals for this zoning permit that we're working on here for his agricultural buildings. And I've spoken with Peter Drum, who's present tonight, town attorney, and Ken Vinal, the CEO. And so my understanding at this point is we are looking for a zoning permit for those agricultural structures. The use, as far as the use goes, the cultivation, the commercial agriculture, medical marijuana use, I believe is covered as of right, as my understanding. So we're focusing on those structures and getting a zoning permit for those tonight. And so, yeah, that's why we're here. And I think I'll let Matt introduce himself and explain a little more about what he's doing.
Oh, you're muted, Matt.
Nope, you're just really quiet.
Hear me?
Oh, there we go.
I can't really hear you guys that well either.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit, yep. Just speak up, I guess.
Yep. So I have a license for cultivating caregiving, and my plan is to utilize the hoop house, more like high tonal structures, like an open-ended greenhouse of sort, and utilize the chicken coop for chickens and their manure to ultimately be able to cultivate medicine for the patients of Maine, and kind of have a whole closed circuit plan there to utilize the chickens and their manure as high nitrogen fertilizing, and that way I can have a low impact, sustainable and regenerative farm, and ultimately produce quality medicine for the medical patients of Maine.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So as I understand it, this is an expansion of use because you have a certain amount of space dedicated to agriculture right now, but it's really the construction of the hoop houses and the addition of the sheds that we're talking about. And you previously obtained a permit from the town of Newcastle for agriculture. Is that correct?
I have the permit for the original building that was already built. And I guess in terms of what's permitted already, that would just be for the commercial ag use for the hoop houses and such.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just trying to determine is the permit you had prior versus what you're applying for now. Under the and we're also dealing with, I think, when you started your operation, we were operating under a different land use ordinance, and we now have a new land use ordinance with some slightly different definitions, and it treats things slightly differently. But there's a definition in the new code, which is what we are operating under now, for commercial agriculture, and it just describes what it is you're doing. So it covers, you know, if you're growing something, whatever it is, and then selling it, it's commercial agriculture. If you're just growing something for your own use, it's personal agriculture, and that's the distinction. So really what you're looking for, if I'm understanding correctly tonight, is you want to build some structures, add some structures, or bring in some sheds, build some hoop houses, and you want to just have that commercial agricultural use.
Yes.
With this new permit.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay. I'm going to move over. Bear with me. I'm just going to pull up the application now and start going through it here. All right. Before we get started, are there any questions from any planning board members about the application or what we're doing? Do we have any questions for the applicants?
Well, I got a couple. So there's two applications here, and I just looked up, and one is from 19. That was the 800 square foot storage building.
Yep.
So that's not really what we're talking about tonight. I don't know why it was added on to this. And then the other one, and this is just probably has nothing to do with us, but on the your medical marijuana growers individual caregiver registry has expired.
Yes, and I actually have a new one now. It was renewed.
Okay.
I do have that, and
All right, then that answers that question. And that 800 square foot, that's already been approved and built and really has nothing to do with this application.
That's right. I believe Shelley sent that over with all the file materials, but it's not what we're talking about tonight.
That's all right.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, let's dig in. So this lot is located in the rural district. So in the core zoning code, that is on page 12 and 13. And the rural zone as defined nowadays is a little different than the other districts, where we don't regulate the size or design of buildings except as they relate to the amount of road frontage that the lot has. Meaning, if you have the minimum lot frontage, you can cover a certain amount of square footage of the lot. What those buildings are and how they look is up to you. There's no other criteria. So it could be commercial buildings, it could be residential buildings, it could be mixed use buildings. The code in this regard just does not care. From the perspective of the hoop houses, there's a definition for agricultural structure in the back, which specifically defines a hoop house as an agricultural structure. So it's a building, it's a structure. So it would count towards the overall lot coverage square foot calculation in the lot coverage table in the lower left-hand corner of page 12. But if we look on, and I'm going to pull it up real quick, if I can find it, because I had pulled it up on the database here. If we look on the map, I believe the Forest Road follows the line, the property line of lot 839 and then into 39B and continues, and I haven't measured this, but I'll do that right now. I believe it's in compliance.
And there's one provision also I'd like to mention before we get too much further is in the building standards section of the D1 section of the code, it mentions that buildings that are constructed to support an active agricultural use shall not be included in the coverage calculation.
Oh, thank you for that. So since this is a new code, I was going to get there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I was kind of walking us through the steps and you just
skipping
kinda
ahead.
jumped
All
over
right.
me, but that's great. I just wanted to lay out for everyone that along that line, Forest Road of the property line, you actually have, what did it end up being? 800 linear feet or so of road frontage along that property line. Does that sound about right? 843 is what it came up on the assessor's thing. So it's quite a bit.
Okay.
So that would pass. However, thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Dubois. Agricultural buildings are exempt. So
I'll stop jumping ahead. I'll let you.
No,
handle
you're
it.
good. You're great. You're great. So any active agricultural building, and that is an important distinction, because if a building is erected for agricultural uses and then changes, it needs to be kind of reviewed as a change of use. So, hoop houses are a particular case where when they're not being used, obviously, they tend to get taken down. So, okay. So going back to the application, bear with me. All right. And then the code. So flipping over to uses on page 13, commercial agriculture, which is the third one under agriculture, is a permitted use. So I do want to just hop down real quick and read the definition for that, just for anybody watching. All right, commercial agriculture is defined on page 67 in the use section, the definition of which I'll read. The commercial planting, cultivating, producing, growing, and harvesting of agricultural or horticultural products, the raising of livestock and poultry, and any work performed in conjunction with the above farm operations, including the packing, drying, and storing of products processed on premises. And then under general standards, that's where it talks about private non-commercial agriculture, which is what we're not talking about. And then item 2 is agricultural uses must follow the Maine State Agricultural Protection Act standards. And Mr. Dubois, I'm sure that you're here to tell us, hopefully, I'm guessing that Mr. Morgan-Besser is in compliance with all of that.
Yep. Yeah, I actually had to look into that myself when I read that section, and I said, what does that mean? What does it mean to be in compliance with those standards? So when I looked into that from Matt, essentially what I found was the Maine Agricultural Protection Act basically provides that a farm can't be considered a nuisance or in violation of town ordinance if it's A, operating where a farm is allowed to operate, and B, it follows the Department of Agriculture's best management practices. So it basically just says, a farm can't be considered a nuisance if it's where it's allowed to be and it's following the state's best management practices. And so it's sort of a protection for farms. And if there were ever a nuisance issue with a farm, then the department would work with that farmer to bring them into best management practices, or BMPs, to ensure that they were no longer, a nuisance. So it's not sort of a a mandatory thing to follow BMPs for all agriculture in the state and all farms, but it is beneficial to do, and they could be required to do it if they become a nuisance.
Right. If you were, say, running a retirement home for roosters.
Oh boy, yes, violate the noise standards for sure.
Right. Okay. So the other thing we're talking about is I got to go up and look at what you wrote there. The hoop houses are one thing, and then a chicken coop that's 12 by 32 and one Amish shed that's 14 by 30. So that definition of commercial agriculture talked about planting, cultivating, producing, growing, harvesting, but it also talked about packing, drying, storing products on premises. So what of all those things are you engaged in? All of those activities, or are you just cultivating, not packaging? What are you doing? Excuse me. Okay. I can't hear you again. I'm sorry. No.
Last time this happened, it sort of just snapped into, it was corrected all of a sudden.
No.
Huh.
You know what, Mr. Morgenbesser? It's not that I don't like looking at you, but if you turn off your video, it may prioritize your voice.
Okay.
Could be your connection speed.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, a little better.
Good tip, Peter.
Good save.
Not only is he a lawyer.
I call it the Peter application because most people don't want to see my face. So the program has it built in to like block out certain people.
Well,
Go ahead, Mr.
shed
Morgenbesser. I'm sorry to interrupt.
is meant for storage, and the hoop house is for cultivation.
So storage and cultivation is all you're really doing.
Yeah.
Well, would you be harvesting and drying and the cannabis on the site?
It's mostly meant, at least the plan for harvesting is to store it frozen. So more so going from the plant directly to storage, whereas to be frozen.
Okay, so there's no additional processing or any other packaging. You're not going to be selling directly on the site. That would require a different type of use permit where you're
No.
selling right there. It's to be grown, packed, or dried, packed, sent somewhere else to be sold or distributed in some other manner. But you're not going to be selling directly on the site.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions for the applicant while we're here?
Sounds like
What's that?
Sounds like
Sounds like farming. Exactly. It is. Yeah, and the core code's pretty clear. Farming is one of those things that's, encouraged and allowed by pretty much by right in a lot of places and with very few restrictions. So a zoning permit is what is all that's required, I think, for this application. And if we could have a motion on the application at this point, if we have no other conversation.
I made some motion to accept the application as presented.
Okay. Nick moves. Peter McNaughton seconds. Do we have any further conversation, questions about the application? Seeing none, all in favor of granting the permit. And that passes 5-0.
Oh.
All right. Mr. Dubois and Mr. Morgenbesser, thank you very much for your time. You can obtain your zoning permit now from the CEO, Ken Vinyl.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
All right. Next on the agenda, Mr. Parsons. All right. So we are at 68 Main Street, map 13, lot 83. The description is reads as follows: the expansion of the outside patio east towards Maritime Farm and stops at the existing lamppost in the parking lot, then back to the existing patio fence. This will consist of additional fencing, same as existing, which is rough hemlock, and the addition of a pergola, 10 by 14, with an expansion floor that will consist of crushed stone and oyster shells.
Correct.
So, excuse me. All right. Yeah, Brendan, why don't you lay it out for us now that I've said all that? Tell us what you want to do.
All right, let me jump into it. Yes, so I just plan on extending the patio area. This last year with COVID, guests wanted ample space, and we were lucky enough to have space, but we kind of experienced a busier summer than anticipated. And so we believe by expanding some more patio space, it can kind of accommodate what we might expect for this upcoming season. Also, this area, no one parks in this area, and that lamppost, I don't have a ticker on it, but I would say probably once a month someone would back up into it. And so I think by actually barricading and making it a more prominent feature, we will eliminate any kind of those mishaps, which I'm sure my patrons will appreciate as well.
So, great. I got to rotate this here. I'm sorry. There we go. Okay. So you've got the current canopy that you put up in the spring and you take down in the fall.
Correct.
That covers the 9 picnic tables you've got out front there.
Correct.
And then I noticed also this fire pit area that's not currently there.
Well, that's not. So this plan that we have right now was our original submission in 2018. This layout right here. We do have a fire pit. It's not quite of that shape, but it's a little more rectangular. And then we also have the towers as well for heating. But we do have, in the past, we had some chairs out there, like Adirondack chairs.
But we're not talking about a permanent built-in fireplace area. It's a portable thing you take in and out.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So then what we're talking about really is the addition of this sort of rectangular area over there by the lamppost. The lamppost used to have your sign on it.
Correct.
Okay. And now the sign is moved and it's just a lamppost.
Mm-hmm.
And so along the, just to be clear, along the front, which is the sidewalk side, it's going to have the same fence extend all the way from the current fence to that with no breaks. People aren't going to be able to enter right off the sidewalk. It'll just have that same type of fencing all the way along, basically to the lamppost, go back a little bit, and then close it on the backside as well.
Correct.
And in the enclosed area, the intended use is what?
It'll be additional space. Currently, we have a little stage there. And so this will kind of get that a little bit further away from guests. And then that could be additional seating, or it could be additional just space to make guests feel comfortable.
And the
tables better.
Okay. And the pergola you're talking or proposing to build is a permanent structure, or
that would be a permanent structure. I say that because I assemble it. It's something I'd be buying from Sam's Club is the one that I attached in the filing, the submission. And so I would say that is permanent. Yes.
permanent as in attached, like you're gonna pour concrete, or is it
No,
can be
permanent
taken
as in
down-
I'm gonna screw it to
the
to
deck?
secure it to the fencing.
Oh, to the fencing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I mean, technically, we are talking about a structure. You're gonna install a deck. You're gonna put a pergola on it. It's gonna be attached to the fence. The whole thing is gonna be a unit.
Correct.
I'm just trying to figure out how to classify it
Yep.
under the code, how it would work.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's gonna have a deck? It's not just gonna be like an oyster shell gravel or?
No, I think underneath the pergola, I think it's better for a deck as far as equipment goes, whether it's music there or setting up a drum kit or just having something level there. I think would be beneficial.
Okay. All right. All right. Does anyone else from the planning board have any other questions before we dig into the code?
Yeah, I had a question.
Go for it, Lee.
So in terms of the, you have the fence you're expanding. Is that like in terms of feet, like 10 more feet, 12 feet for the expansion itself of the fence? Do you know offhand?
Yeah, I believe in the documents I said that the fencing is going to extend, I believe it's 30 feet, and then it's going to come in 10 feet, and then it's going to go out back to the building, back to the restaurant, 32 feet. It might be the other way around. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
Okay, it's the other way around. It's 32 feet, 10, and then 30 feet back to the building.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So as I see it, there's a couple of components here for the review to consider. The structure itself, what the classification of that is, and then the fence itself and how that is in the code. And then the use for which we're talking about, so which is like outdoor dining and live entertainment. So I think we'll take it in that order. We'll go, hold on just a second. All right. So I think we'll take it in that order. I'm going to go to the district page for the lot, which is D6, because it's right in the town center. That's on page 22 and 23 of the core code. All right. So, I mean, setbacks in this district are not a problem. Obviously, it's zero front, so you can build right on the sidewalk, which is where your fence currently is, and it'd be an extension of that on that 0 front foot setback. So that's not a problem. The pergola, the deck, that structure, the way you're proposing to use it, I would actually, I think, classify it as a commercial accessory building, even though it's not technically a building, it's a structure. You've got your current building, which is your primary, commercial structure there. This is sort of an accessory to that because all the things that you do are going to like take place in that, right? Except for like the processing and the cooking and everything like that. You're talking about outdoor dining, live entertainment.
Correct.
So on the building table, if we follow that train of thought, maximum building of 30 by 40, you're cool there. 1 story, you're good there. I'm trying to think if there's any, it does say that we have design standards. So let me just go look down at, I think it's Article 5 real quick here. Which are the design standards for buildings, which do apply in this district. And it's not a standalone anything. Hold on, I'm having one more thought. Give me a second.
I just have one question about the accessory building. Does it need to be a certain size to be considered an accessory building?
No, the other way it could be, the other way we could think about it, let me go back to building standards real quick. It's a great question. Okay. Chemical equipment. Number of buildings, building types. Okay, so the other way to think about it is as an additional structure. That's on page 49. So that's to allow for additional structures that support activities associated with primary and accessory buildings. It applies to any structure on a lot, not including primary accessory buildings, but not limited to garden sheds. And it does not apply to temporary structures. So, okay, so temporary structure is another interesting one, right? The purpose there is to provide standards for the short-term deployment of a structure to shelter people, products, equipment, or animals from the elements, which this pergola does or doesn't do. I mean, is that the intended use?
I would say that's what it's for, to cast shade. Let's say if there's, so in the past when we had music on Sundays, I would put up a pop-up tent to protect them from the elements and give them some shade so that they're not just, to protect them from the elements.
So, I mean, the interesting thing about temporary structures, right, is that it says structures no greater than 100 square feet.
Yeah, 10 by 14.
Which is, so we're a little bit above that, right? And are you planning to take it down in the fall or leave it up?
Well, I think it's a little bit easier to keep it up. But if it is a caveat, a make or break, I could certainly disassemble it.
Well, I mean, that's really kind of the distinction between an additional structure and a temporary structure. One that you take down, or you can easily take down, or that you do take down versus one that you don't. An additional structure in that district has a 150 square foot max. So that meets the standard for, I mean, your proposal would meet that standard. The other things that are, generally, I'm just reading here on additional structures, they're not a dwelling unit. They're permitted in conjunction with a primary or accessory building and must be clearly incidental and subordinate in terms of area, size, use, and location, which it would be. Shall be under the same ownership, which it is. And yeah. So now, interesting. Additional structures must follow the accessory building plan of their applicable district. Screening is an interesting concern, but while we're talking about that and the fence, why don't we flip over to looking at the fence standards? I think we're going to want to think about it as an additional structure, not as as an actual commercial accessory structure, not as an additional structure. Simply because if you're planning to leave it up all year round, you don't want to have to screen the entire thing, but you are installing a fence. What you're really talking about is something that's there and could be used year round, even though you don't necessarily operate year round, but it's a permanent structure. It's on the land.
Yep.
The deck is certainly on the land. You're not planning to take the deck up every year and, move it somewhere. It's going to stay.
Well, a temporary structure has to be removed within 1 week of installation, according to this anyway. And you're not going to put it up and take it down every week. So it's not a temporary structure.
Right. So what page is fences on? Does anyone know?
I do not.
I just missed it. 41. All right. All right. Fences and walls, minimum of 6-inch setback from any lot line. The current fence, well, the current fence is because the lot line is in the road. Let's see, the frontage zone, maybe no more than 4 feet in height and must be constructed of pickets or picket set on the low wall, more than 50% opaque, except where the fences are located within 4 feet of, okay, so that's not a problem. 4.5 feet from the frontage zone, okay. And then durable materials, barbed wire is not allowed. Yeah, okay, that would work. So the one question I had about the fence is I know that the lot slopes because it follows the hill down from Maritime Farms, and your fence, of course, on the Maritime Farm side that exists now is,
30
short,
Yeah,
and then if the follows a level and it rises. So how are you're not going to have a wee tiny little tiny little fence as it goes up. So how tall is the fence going to be?
The plan is to keep it at 30 inches on the other end. So we're gonna have to raise it another 44 inches over that span. If it were to go straight up from right there, it would go 44 inches and it would expand to the 30 inches on the other end.
So no part of the fence will be over 48 inches tall.
No, correct.
Right. Okay. I think I understand. Okay. All right. I think the fence would apply, and that really, I mean, at least for me in the D6 town center, in terms of how to think about this, I think it's a commercial accessory structure with a fence. And you're not talking about outdoor storage. So really what we're talking about is, in terms of uses, I'm on page 23 now, the district standards for D6. All right, so restaurant and cafe and live entertainment is really what we're talking about in terms of uses, correct? Let's just go real quick and look at the use definitions for both of those. Let's start with restaurant and cafe. Brendan, I do apologize if I'm putting you through your paces here. We're working through the new code, so we're adjusting as well. So
no, I'm along for the ride.
Great. Restaurant and cafe definition is in the bottom left-hand corner of page 72. All right, so the definition is a business where food and beverages are prepared and served to patrons for consumption either on premise or off premise. Sale of alcohol requires separate approval as a bar or tavern. And you've got that. You're operating your restaurant use under your permit that you got under the old code.
Yep, correct.
A restaurant may include, okay, this is item 2 under standard. So it's restaurant and cafe B2. A restaurant may include live entertainment without a separate approval under the following conditions. No permanent space is dedicated for live entertainment. No admission is charged for live entertainment, where live entertainment is offered incidental and subordinate to the restaurant use, and complies with live entertainment use standards. So this is the deck is for seating or for live entertainment?
I would say it is for seating first, and then can be for live entertainment.
All right, so it's
Good
live
answer.
entertainment. What's that, Nick?
It's a good answer.
It's incidental is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's flip over then and look at the definition for live entertainment. which is at the bottom left-hand corner of page 70. Any activity provided for pleasure, quiet enjoyment, recreation, relaxation, diversion, or other similar purpose by a person or persons who are physically present when providing an activity to a patron or group of patrons who are physically present. I love that definition, by the way. Isn't that great?
Oh,
I
yeah.
did not write that. Okay, so B, standards 1. The proposed use shall comply with the nuisance standards in Article 6, Section 1G. I think this is honestly the crux of the situation here, Brendan. The live entertainment that you've had there has received a couple of noise complaints.
Yep.
Which you're aware of, and Ken Vinyl is aware of, and I think the people downtown are concerned about the level of noise from live entertainment and bands and everything. There. Let's just go look at that. Article 6, Section 1G. I can't remember. I think that's at the beginning of yeah, it's on page 64. All right, so 1. Uses described in this code may reference nuisance standards, in which case the following standards apply in addition to any standards separately placed on the proposed use. A. The proposed use may not adversely affect the use and quiet enjoyment of a budding property as a result of noise, vibration, fumes, odor, dust, glare, and other cause, which is a general catch-all nuisance language. So I guess the question about live entertainment and the complaints that we've already received really kind of go to how do you plan to address those concerns that, especially the direct abutting neighbors have expressed? I mean, what are you thinking your hours of operation are going to be? Is there some, how are you going to handle noise levels, things like that?
Well, I guess I would start off with the times I've selected music, which have been 2 to 5 on Sunday. So I thought that was like the best time I could possibly have music for, being considerate neighbor, which I am trying to be. And so after that, I guess I would come down to, I am in the village center, and I guess I am in downtown Newcastle. So, I think that there should be some grace, some understanding of where people are located in respects to a town. After that, I would say, we have been on it, we have been conscious of music. I don't know if it's really fair to limit me to certain musicians can only play, like only certain instruments can play. I know there's a decibel reading there. And so, if that's kind of what it comes down to, I understand that as a measurement, a metric rather, to be like, listen, we're okay here. Besides that, I really don't know what else I could be doing on 2 to 5 on a Sunday. That it's also, complimenting Dan Roscata with Schooner's live music from 4 to 7. Just trying to add a little bit to the town of Newcastle here by having live music. And so that is kind of my stance. And I guess where some of my frustration is coming from, because I don't really know what else I can do besides not have any music, which I don't think is fair to my business.
Well, the use is certainly allowed. I don't think anyone's saying you can't do it. The concern is just really how to, like you said, temper it. And so just so we're clear, is Sunday between 2 and 5 the only time that you ever have live music?
No, I'm allowed to. I mean, in my original application that was approved, I can't quote it for certain, but I think I said I'm allowed to have music later than that, for sure. I don't have the original application in front of me, but that was approved. But that is something that is
so
more days than that.
Okay, I don't have the original application in front of me either, and I think since it's you're sort of formalizing the band area, adding outdoor seating. Looking at that original permit, does this, expand that substantially? You're not planning on having, by doing this addition or expansion of use, you're not planning to do more than you were originally doing. You're just planning to keep doing what you were doing in approximately the same place, but under better conditions. So really what we're talking about in terms of nuisance standards, and I'm just sort of summing up here, is the level of noise at what time of night. I think is the crux of the issue. Am I right here, guys? Does anyone have anything to say to this? Peter McNaughton?
Just relating to the structure itself, is there some feasible way of creating a sort of soundproofing 3 sides or 2 sides to that the space where the band would be that might mitigate the sound going sideways as opposed to going straight out towards, let's say, in a westerly direction towards your audience, rather than out towards either side of the road? I don't know if there are residences across the road from you, but certainly on the northern side there would be.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something. I mean, being a pergola, you are graded. You do have the pergola effect on the shed, the roof of it, and I could certainly kind of carry that down on the northern side to try and mitigate sound. I mean, I think that would be my best interest, and I'm sure I can make that look aesthetic as well, with some kind of greenery or. So, I mean, I think that would be in my interest.
That sounds like a really good compromise. I think, if you were able to add some potted something or other that sort of stood up maybe behind that or whatever, just added a little bit of shelter on the back side of that. It might help.
How many people are concerned about the noise? Is it one family? 3 hours a week on a Sunday afternoon? I mean,
Yeah.
come on. That's over the top. I mean, if it was 2 o'clock Sunday morning, one thing, but 2 to 5 Sunday afternoon, he does a great job down there. No, I don't think one household complaining should carry the load.
I think it was 2 households.
2
That would be the
households?
top side. Yeah, I believe so. Those are the complaints I remember.
How late at night do you, I mean, it's not like you're playing music at 11 o'clock at night, are you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, our operation hours, the latest night that we've been open is like 10 o'clock at night. And that's not even outside. That's not live music by any means either. That's just a business operating. I mean, I believe we're permitted to be open until 1 p.m., but that's just not our business model.
Right. But so live music, no later
Live
than
music,
9
I mean,
usually?
maybe the latest our Sunday schedule is 2 to 5. There might be like a special event at some point where we might play till 7. But I think that I know we've never played past 7, and we have our structure on Sundays is 2 to 5.
Great. Well, honestly, I mean, the use that you're proposing complies with the code. There's no reasonable reason within the code that I can see to deny the permit or impose any other additional conditions on the permit. But it would be it would be disingenuous not to mention the complaints that we've had about the noise and just talk about it and have a conversation about it so that, people know that we're aware of it and that you're aware of it and you're doing what you can in terms of hours the live music is happening and you're on top of the noise and these are all great things, I think. Yeah.
There's while this conversation was going on, I just Googled outdoor sound mitigation. And there's just a whole bunch of residential products out there. They don't look expensive. I mean, and a lot of them are just sort of a fabric. So, That's all I'm gonna say. You know, I mean, if somebody wants to, you know, now that I said that's all I'm gonna say, I'm gonna keep talking for a minute. I mean,
Go for it.
if you wanted to say, hey, we made an effort, you know, we put up this fabric fence. And it, you know, it only has to be, you know, I look at this thing and if it's where the band area is gonna be, it would only have to be, you know, a portion of that 30 feet, half of it, you know, where the band's just behind it for a minute. So that's, it doesn't, I'm not saying that that has to be a criteria, but I'm just saying that that's something to think about. Not for the planning board, but for Brendan.
Sure.
Peter Minot, go ahead.
Just expanding on what Nick is saying, I think it should be part of what we propose is that some effort be made to acknowledge the two people that are complaining, or the two families, and some small effort needs to be made to acknowledge that, do something at least, but for the rest of it, it looks good to me.
Are you proposing a condition on the permit, a nuisance condition?
No, I think that that's sort of imposing too much on him, but I think it'd be appropriate for him to consider that.
I think it's in my best interest, and I think we all agree with that. And I think there is, like Nick and Peter just mentioned, you know, some things that are cost effective to mitigate this and be a good neighbor, which I am always trying to be. So yes.
And they look aesthetically pleasing. It's not
Yep.
like it's, you know, and they don't look expensive. Stack some bale of hay, some hay up there.
Well, I mean, the pergola itself, and I mean, while we're on the question of aesthetics, you know, the continuation of that nice looking fence and a pergola with a nice deck is certainly more aesthetically pleasing than a large swath of unused asphalt right in the downtown. So, you know, that's just my own personal 2 cents, I guess. All right. Any other questions, concerns, questions for Brendan, or concerns regarding the application? Lee?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I think if people are concerned about the sound and they're in this neighborhood, I would encourage them to watch this. It's live streamed on YouTube and see it, and maybe read the minutes after the fact or whatever is publicly available to know we talked about it. And I think what you're doing makes sense. People are concerned, understandably, especially people coming, and you want to space things out, which obviously the best interests of the dining at your place and for you as well. So I just want to say, I think what you're doing makes so.
Yeah, I agree. All right. If there's no other comments or questions, we could entertain a motion on the application.
Propose the motion to accept the application.
Peter seconds. David, I saw David's hand first, so David seconds. Any further conversation about the application? Seeing none, all in favor of granting the application. That passes 5-0. So Brendan, go ahead and see Ken about getting your zoning permit and zoning and use permit from Ken. And thank you very much. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Have a
Take
good
care.
evening. So I think I'm just going to go back to the agenda real quick, but there's nothing else on it unless there's public comments, new business. No new business that I have. Anybody?
No. Wow, what happened? You shut me off?
No, you're good. Oh, your video turned off?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
That's all right.
That's all right. You don't need to look at me anyway.
All right. Well, so without objection, I'm going to say the meeting is adjourned. The time is 7:27. Everybody have a great night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Bye.